Welcome to Find Your Lane.
Have we found our lane?
I don't even know if we found our lane.
Have we found our lane?
Our lane.
How you find your lane?
Welcome to Find Your Lane.
Oh man, I'm so good at this. And no, Jeremiah wanted to make sure the only thing we did is give him a shout out. So thanks for inviting us to the golf tournament, Maya.
Yeah. Good luck.
We missed Jeremiah, but we couldn't. The show must go on. But yeah, so to introduce my guest, I have a long list of things here. Give me a moment. Jared Westergard has been a friend of mine for over 3 decades. I was thinking about on the way in.
It's been a long time.
I was like, dude, we have, because I was thinking, like, when is the first memory I have with the Westergards? And it's like, wham,
Yeah.
YMCA basketball.
Yeah. I mean,
I just remember Josh on my team or us on the same team with Preston, and then Little League
yeah. I mean,
out at Brimhall.
I was talking about this the other day with my wife. We were talking about kind of childhood memories, and I was thinking the house that I probably spent the most time at in my childhood
Outside of your own.
outside of my own home was the Ashby house.
That is being sold
Yeah.
for the first
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Crazy, huh?
Crazy.
Yeah, so needless to say, I've known Jared forever. Jared's wife also grew up with us. We all kind of grew up in the same area, and we have a lot of common interests, mostly around golf, the G-ball. And so we go back and forth on the golf course, which is fun, but mostly we get to hang a bunch with our boys out there on the golf course, and then our kind of cool getting to know your wife.
I call it networking.
Yeah. Lexi's a fan, so she'll watch this, but it's networking, Lexi.
No, but I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, golf for me, and I'm assuming you, is just, it's an out. It's awesome, but it's also led to a lot of different, I think, possibilities.
Yeah. It's been
To do so.
I'm that same boat.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and I, in Preston, like when Preston came on, he's like, dude, send me a list of questions. I'm like, I don't want a list of questions. I don't care where this goes. Like, as you, Jared's our number 2 fan behind Preston. And so we only thought it right that Jared get on here. But what I love about the theme of finding your lane is there's no right, wrong, and like I've talked about multiple times, there's many times where we're shifting lanes and changing. And I know a little bit about your history in your professional life and in your personal life. But I mean, I would kind of start with, like, in thinking about the topic of, like, your lane, what have you found most effective in helping you find kind of a path or a lane forward in, whether it's, like I said, personal, professional life,
Yeah.
life in general?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much that goes into it, right? I think in my kind of my personal life, I've always viewed it as kind of, I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I've always kind of viewed it as what do I want as, like, the end result.
Yeah.
And so I've always kind of pictured and had that, like, end goal in mind of, a wife that I love, a wife that loves me, kids, a family, and a career that allows me to kind of achieve goals and do things that make me feel good, that make me feel wanted, and then ultimately getting to a point that brings a happiness and joy to my life, and gives me flexibility to do the things that I love and spend time with my family and friends and kind of go that route. And so when I started my career, a lot of what I did was based off of, what I saw growing up as a kid. And, my dad, for example, was a great role model and example to me, just because, the hard work and everything he did for us as a family. And from, the lessons that we talked about and from the different things that we would discuss, I always knew that going into a finance accounting background would be something that would be interesting to me, just because of the different applications that use with it. And so
I like that. So you kind of start with your end goal in mind in kind of finding your lane of, I want to have a happy, balanced life. I want to be able to spend time with the people I love the most. And so you thought, all right, I saw how my dad lived. I saw that he could create a good life for us. And then you're like, all right, I could go make it work there.
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, so you, from what I understand, out of college, did you go directly and start, his dad owned a successful CPA firm that has since sold recently a couple years back?
Yeah, they were acquired by a larger kind of
A conglomerate that.
yeah, and then through a couple of different other transactions afterwards, they now the company Forvis, they're now kind of a top 10 national
Oh, cool.
accounting firm.
And that's who acquired their book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
And your dad started that?
Yeah, so he's been a partner there forever. It used to be Schmidt Westergard. Before that, it was Nelson Lamson. But when I was young, he went over and took a role as partner and has kind of just, started his career there. I mean, he didn't start there, but acquired that.
But help build that
helped
and then
build
get into that.
Yeah, and has been doing that for a long time.
And then when you finished your schooling, did you go straight there and work?
Yeah, so I was, I started actually, I did an internship there, a paid internship while I was going to school. And it was great because it gave me the flexibility to kind of get my feet wet a little bit, and figure out somewhat of what public accounting was. I chose to kind of go through the path of audit. So in public accounting, there's kind of, audit and tax. You always hear the
many different lanes. Yeah.
And so I wanted the flexibility of, meeting with people and learning about businesses and financials and stuff. So that's
I remember early on you would like spend a lot of time in Sholo. Was it a hospital up there, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if any of this can't be shared, but we'll bleep it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just remember like early on you'd always be up in Sholo. I'm like, what are you doing up there, dude? You'd be up there for 3 days and your family would go with you. I was like, what is he doing?
It was awesome.
Yeah. Did that help you? You kind of mentioned it, but that's interesting. I never thought about that. So auditing side allowed you to kind of dig through the number side of the business and kind of business in general.
Yeah.
Which
And
helped you lead to entrepreneurship eventually, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's like, for me, that was kind of how I found my lane. I started, like I had mentioned, going down the career path modeling after what my dad had done. And, 7-8 years into public accounting, I realized I didn't see myself continuing forever in that kind of industry per se, in that position.
After a few years of being in that.
Yeah, and I loved it, and I liked the people, and everything was great, but I kind of envisioned it more for me as being somebody who was in the position of, of the clients that I was helping.
Sure.
I wanted to kind of spread my wings a little bit and go after.
Do me a favor, point your
mic
like right under where you're talking like that. There you go.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Because it'll pick it up. It'll pick it up now.
Perfect.
There you go, dude.
But yeah, and so just wanted to go and model a little bit more of, what I was seeing with my clients. And, I don't know if it was just a curiosity that I had of like, hey, I could do this. I could build something.
Yeah.
And that just one thing led to another. And, there were a number of different opportunities that came up that I pursued, and one thing led to the next, and here I am.
Yeah. So then from Schmidt Westergard, you worked as basically CFO controller for a few different organizations, right? And then now your current setup is your business is Sonoran Business Advisors, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And you have, again, a couple different lanes within your business, which is bookkeeping, basically a CFO, but not in-house. So you kind of do a virtual CFO, but something like that, right?
Yep.
And then also controller slash, full on COO if needed, right?
Correct. Yeah. Operational type help
Operation
and
stuff.
setup. Yeah. So after, when I left public accounting, I went and was CFO of a number of companies, and it was great. Had a good time there. The people were awesome. But what it did was it kind of lit a fire under me, and I saw that I wanted to. I enjoyed overseeing, numerous companies and being involved in different different things every
Yeah,
day.
you're getting a ton of exposure to like a lot of good and bad of
Yeah. And so
that's cool.
I saw like, hey, for me, I want to be able to do this, but I wanted to be able to kind of grow and do it, myself. And so that's why we started Sonoran Business Advisors. And yeah, I mean, we focus a lot on I would say probably smaller companies,
Cool.
who have the need for bookkeeping, CFO, controller, virtual controller, um, business valuation type stuff.
So instead of someone bringing on someone for a 6-figure salary
Yeah.
at a much better rate for maybe their book at the time,
Yeah.
if it's a good fit, you would do an assessment and say, hey, this is where we could help you out.
Yeah, I mean, our whole strategy is, it's we'll save you on the benefits, we'll save you on the cost. We're going to use technology to be more efficient. We're going to use our expertise and our knowledge to identify things quickly and
Give
to
advice
give
and
advice.
yeah.
um and sometimes companies need somebody in house,
Yeah.
whether that's a clerk or controller, but
That's
for
on it
others,
constantly.
yeah,
Yeah.
and for others, it's unique and it works. And so um especially with, I think, in today's world with technology and with remote work and
How
how
data's mined and
yeah
everything, you
yeah
can get that
yeah
without. Yeah.
yeah and COVID really kind of transformed that a lot. I think
Interesting.
people are a lot more open to um working with others who are not in house or
I think it'd be interesting. There could be a whole, and there probably is out there, but a whole podcast about how COVID changed industries.
oh it,
Because, like, I mean, it's such a general and silly statement almost because we all know that that's the fact. But, like, when you live in it, like, I just remember um, the day that everything kind of shut down or kind of the time it did, and just sitting down with all our team being like, hey,
yeah,
we either adapt to survive right now and it's going to be that way for a long term, or we go to die and
yeah,
we won't continue in business. And so it's cool how even just in business and in any industry it sounds, and I'm assuming what COVID did to help people, and I think I've talked about it before, but what COVID did to help people adapt and change
sure,
and pivot in a lot of ways. Like
yeah,
we didn't do any visit or any like consultations outside of the home
yeah,
because it was always just like, oh, people just want an excuse not to meet with us. They don't want to sit with us. We were always like, but I think that's it would be an interesting thing. Just you could ask every single person that's in business or in working force, like, how has it changed your life?
oh,
Be so
for sure.
interesting to see. But
Well, it's funny too. I mean, it's not funny, but it's kind of crazy to think. For me, there was so much. I remember thinking back to when that was all going down. There was so much of an unknown.
right,
What is this?
right.
Nobody knows what's going
Yeah.
on. What does the future hold?
So much.
And I had that kind of decision too back when I left public accounting. It was like, am I making this like
Yeah, is this the right transition?
like
Yeah.
what's the future hold? What is and it's just funny how life works to where one thing leads to another, and you don't know what's going to happen until you, for me, it's just kind of until you take that step and you just start going and you're all in, and then um yeah, and here we are. So crazy.
Yeah, dude. So you've been almost 2 years in business with SBA now.
Yeah, it's about been two
Not
two
the
and a half years.
SBA.
Yeah, not the SBA.
Yeah, Sonoran Business Advisor. In those couple years, yeah. So you're coming up on a couple years.
Mhm.
What would you say is a time you remember, and maybe you thought you were in the lane and had to shift, or
Yeah,
some pivot that you've made just in business the last little bit that
yeah.
you might thought, oh, I never thought I would had to have done that or whatever. I mean, you're experiencing some in a way that you never thought you would in
Yeah.
legal issues.
Yeah, what's interesting with clients is everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
And so every client we have, every project we have, and I'm not gonna name names just
Yeah.
for confidentiality reasons, but we're there to be kind of, I've always looked at it as we're there to be kind of um, their go-to when it comes to financial questions and decisions that need to be made.
Yeah.
And um, I think one of the things that I quickly learned when I started SBA was I don't know everything.
Sure.
And I needed to surround myself with people who were better at some of the different tasks that I didn't necessarily want to spend the time learning.
Delegation,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. The
It's such a
delegation was
skill.
hard for me.
Yeah.
It was really hard because, and when you start off small, I mean, you're doing everything.
Yeah.
You're the contact with the client. You're,
Not like this podcast, but go ahead.
I mean, everything. I'm doing the work. I'm the interface with the client. I'm doing the billing. I mean, and
Yeah.
so
A lot of hats.
yeah, and as we got bigger and as we started to grow and as more and more needs came with clients, I was trying to do kind of everything, and I realized quickly that it would be better for me to take a step back and bring somebody in.
It's just not effective.
Yeah.
It's such a hard
Yeah.
balance, dude.
Well, and it's money out of my pocket, right?
100%.
And so that decision,
And as a new business, you're like, oh, dude, I could pay them or I could
Yeah.
keep it and I'm going to be better at it. But it's like,
yeah,
it doesn't free you up to do the things it's such an interesting dichotomy that you get into with that. And I've crossed it so many times. I'm like, oh man, should it? And it's like, even with like books, like doing my books, I'm like, I just need to pay Jared. Like
Yeah.
I'm doing like all my P&Ls and stuff after I've extended. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
I wish I had a friend who did this for a living. Oh, so dumb. So that's interesting. So yeah, you get a lot of different looks at so many different industries. I mean, I'm sure you finally get into like a couple that are like, oh, it's working well in this industry, so we should pursue more clients in this or whatever. But
yeah.
so how about with employees? So you've had, multiple people work for you. What has been a big a challenge or something that you've noticed along the way that has been helpful
Yeah.
in kind of helping you employ someone or help find good talent?
Yeah. I think recently one of the things that I noticed is, as hard as that step was for me to delegate tasks to,
Yeah.
now I'm at the point to where for me, when I have employees that take ownership of something, it just,
The best.
it's the best.
Yeah.
Because, as the business grows and as my kids get older and as, other activities that I have, whether it's through church or whether it's through, the community or, whatever it is, my time becomes more and more valuable. I'm sure it is for you as well.
Totally, yeah.
And so when I'm able to delegate and ask somebody to take on a project or a task or follow up with the client, and I can trust and know that like, hey, it's going to be done. It's going to be done the right way.
Yeah.
And it just for me, I think that's a huge quality that I love in people, to be able to kind of just have that trust and take stress away, and it just solves a lot of
That synergy comes in where it's like you're working as a team, everyone's doing their task. Yeah. I watched a documentary recently about a tribe in Africa that is one of the last hunter-gatherer tribes. I don't know if you see anything about this, but they're one of the few that still like hunt baboons.
really.
Which it's so trippy because baboons are some of the closest mammals to like humans.
Yeah.
Like their fingers and everything. So a little bit of it was like, this is interesting. But anyway, it was cool to see like they at night they would sit down after they hiked like 17 kilometers to get to their area. And the whole time they're just looking for sign of baboon, And along the way, they have to find food just for that night. So like they would stop and get a snake, or it was just it's intriguing. I'll send it to you. But
Oh yeah, I'd love
that night they all divvy up. So the women went ahead like a day before to create dams in the river to make sure they could get small fish and shrimp and stuff from it, so that they could eat that night.
wow.
Then they also were collecting leaves and other vegetation and stuff that would create like they cook their food in these little leaf pockets, and they'd tie it up and then put it in the fire. So they were doing all the prep, but they went ahead of the men. Then all the men, there was a group that was getting their arrows and bows all fixed and ready to rock, and then the younger boys would go out and start hunting for smaller game for that night. And because it looked like, and I don't know exact numbers, but it looked like there's 30-40 people in that company.
Wow.
of like out on this hunt, And I was like, dude, they have to have um they have to have everything so dialed in. And I was just like, it's unbelievable to watch the like how much they are in sync and how everybody has their role. And so what happens is then the older guys begin to strategize on where we're going. And so the young men get the bows and stuff together, and I could be off on some of this, but just everybody had it. And then the next day they get up and they start the hunt, or like early that morning, and they find out where this pack of baboons, I don't know what it's called, but are. And then you just see them. They sent one ahead to go flank them and confuse them, like this pack, and then the ones that were actually going to be doing the hunting. And then what happens is right when they're on them, they're on either side of this group of baboons, and they're worried about shooting each other.
Oh yeah.
So they do a whistle when they're about ready to attack, and the guys that aren't hunting all turn on their flashlights.
Wow.
And it's just like every single piece of it. And I was just like sitting there looking like, dude, everybody knows what lane they're in. Otherwise you die. Like, and they put that poison on their arrows that like kills them the next, But anyway, it was just cool to see, I mean, sorry if that's a little gruesome for some people, but I mean, that's how they survive. It's just life. But
real quick though, what's cool about that too is you talked about kind of the older guys who were, doing the strategy and planning and everything. They, I would assume, had to have gone through all the different rest to understand every part that works. And the people who, are down at the bottom, I don't want to say bottom, but doing maybe some of the more tedious grunt work, they're eventually, hopefully you're going to get to that point. But that journey going through, I mean, allows you to just really understand and be so cool.
Dude, they showed some of that. So the guy who dude, it was crazy. The guy who ended up killing the first, 'cause they got two, when they kill him, they cut off a piece of the tail and wrap it around their bow.
Oh, really?
So they have, this guy had like 8 tails wrapped around his bow, and they keep that and show that. And it's like a prized thing because he'll become a captain or a chief someday.
Yeah.
And so they kind of they touched on that a little bit of how this kid's like, he's moving up. He's super young, but he's the best hunter they have.
Wow.
So then they're on their way out, and they see, and they were estimating maybe like 50 meters away. And I don't know conversion super well, but it's far. Huh. And they see one across a canyon 50 meters away, and one of the dudes just shines his flashlight on him. And this same guy is like, I'm just going to take a shot. And everybody just goes nuts because he beans him and gets a second one on their way out back to camp. And or back to their village or whatever. And anyway, it was just cool. It just reminded me of when you were talking about employees and kind of everybody having their role and doing it, and how it feels when you kind of have that and you delegate. But they're master delegators in that tribe,
Yeah, you got to be.
That's some of the stuff I watch. Maybe not watch that one with the kids.
No. Speaking of kids, quick story as a follow up to episode 1.
Yeah.
Dr. Ashby.
Yeah, go ahead.
Last
2. Yeah.
Episode 2.
Yeah.
Last night we, my youngest Lincoln, he had a pictures for basketball at Peter Piper Pizza. So is that
your Siri?
That might
be quiet, Siri.
Bickley and Murata.
There you go.
Arizona Sports.
There you go.
Mute. Anyways.
We'll edit that out. No, we won't. Rookie, sorry, first timer.
So
let's end the podcast.
we have been on this extensive hunt. Speaking of hunting and kids, for prime drinks. My kids, I think I've gone to probably 10 Circle K's, 10 grocery stores, and any gas station that I pass.
No way.
I'll stop trying to find. Everyone's sold out. But we went to Target last night after pictures, and the kids wanted to look. They had some allowance that they had kind of raised and wanted to look at something to buy, and had to make our way through the drink section.
Lincoln's like, I want pro.
Yeah. And then we made the way through the candy bear section and looked at the Haribo and the different discussion items.
Did you buy any?
We did.
Dude, we've helped with their sales. Look at that. Come on, sponsor us, Haribo.
We did, but I just thought that was funny how one thing led to another, and before long, I was wrapped up in Prime and candy bears.
Oh, the life of a dad, man.
So good.
That is funny. I know. I was like, dude, how do we replicate like every episode? Bring on like a different like. Okay, now we're gonna do peach rings because there's now different. You know, like. That was funny. It was crazy. Jeremiah's palette.
Unbelievable.
It's orange and purple, and I was like, "You're ridiculous. You are ridiculous." He's a unique breed, man. Miss you, Jeremiah. Hope you're going low.
I hope you're playing well.
Dude, that's a good transition into what we do. Love other than God and our family.
Mm-hmm.
Golf.
Golf. Yes.
Oh man, how about that Masters?
Unbelievable.
Did you end up hearing about my picks? Did I tell you?
I think you told me.
Dude, I picked for a moment there. I had the first, second, and third place. I've done some of those pick'em things for a while.
Yeah.
It was some of my best work, man. John Rahm and Brooks Koepka, who were 1 and 2, and Jordan Spieth, who I think ended up 4 or 5.
What an unbelievable round by Spieth, by the way.
Oh, dude, that was crazy.
And Mickelson.
I know.
I mean, I think they said what it was something. Don't quote me, but it's something like 18 birdies between the two of them that last round.
Unbelievable. Yeah, dude, it was fun to see Lefty up there. I hope everyone can get over it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
And I don't agree with the stuff he said or whatever, but like just the whole back and forth, like I'm just kind of over it. Like let him play in the majors.
Yeah. And
let's create a Ryder Cup style game between the two, and it will be the most watched golf event behind the Masters.
You know, it's funny. I started.
It's like, dude, if we can get them to just do that, it's
100%.
going to be so money.
Because at the end of the day, these guys are still some of the best golfers in the world. You know, it doesn't matter where they're playing.
Three of them were in the top 6.
Yeah.
Patrick Reed, Brooks Koepka, and Phil Mickelson.
And I found myself rooting for Brooks just because.
No, dude. I wanted the drama of it.
I know, I did too.
But then, dude, we got Rahm, dude.
Yeah.
Rahm and Lefty, 2 ASU guys, but dude, I'm so happy for John Rahm.
Yeah. He's such.
Have you seen I think we put it on our golf thread, but like the numbers.
It's crazy.
Like every round now, he's like, if you break it out into earnings, it's like $100,000 every round of professional golf he plays.
And I don't see him slowing down.
I was telling Jeremiah, I said, I think we're seeing one of the best golfers ever.
He's gonna, and it's crazy. And we were talking about this too. His swing is, I mean, he just plays that slight fade, and I mean, it's not.
And then because of his club feet, he can't go all the way back. So I think it helps. It'll probably save his back. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of challenges, you know, but he seems to be just dialed.
Oh, yeah.
I love seeing Spieth in the mix every week now.
Yeah.
Like, do you see that playoff?
Yeah.
Oh man,
that was a good one.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's funny because I feel like golf has been, for me in my life, like just like you said, it's definitely a release.
Yeah.
A lot of the times you feel like you got less of a relief from work.
Yeah.
And things because you were so bad that you got so mad. Last thing you want to do is go back to work. You want to stay out and get over this issue that you have with your swing or whatever.
I love it though. There's so many lessons that you can learn in golf, you know,
big time.
Honesty and just talking with people. But back to the whole LIV PGA Tour thing. What I've always loved about it, and I get there's the hardcore, you know, PGA Tour,
purists,
forever purists.
And I can get there.
Yes.
Because we've watched our whole life,
yes,
you know, and played. It's
like, for me though, from a business kind of overall viewpoint, I've loved it just because it creates competition and it makes both sides better.
100%.
And that's, I think, for me, and it goes back to your point where you were talking about, let's just create a Ryder Cup style tournament.
It has to be in the mix.
Yes. I mean, I'd watch it.
Dude, we were talking about golf. That was, interesting. So people may be switching more.
Yeah. We'll see.
You got to think that every year they're going to have a real appeal if they keep throwing money out like that. Because if golfers aren't winning or like placing frequently, it's going to be
It's going to be interesting to see too when it comes to the world golf rankings and how points are given out and
Yeah.
however that ends up shaking out. I don't know what effect that will have if these tournaments like the Masters and all the different championship style tournaments are going to allow these players to continue to come. But yeah.
Dude, I wonder. I saw some article pop up that said something like, Patrick Reed or somebody is still suing or maybe pursuing more lawsuits again. And I haven't followed it, so I don't understand what it is. But anyway, yeah, I'm pumped to see how that progresses. Hopefully, it's not a bunch of them being babies.
Yeah.
The best thing I said, other than Tiger Woods, in the last 25 years, the best thing that's ever happened to the PGA Tour is LIV Golf.
Yeah.
Because all the players are now making more money and way more motivated to win a tournament when there's 4 million on the line instead of $1.5 million.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the classic case of competition is
True.
all of a sudden the PGA Tour found $1 billion. It's like,
Where'd that come from?
okay, people. Anyway. Yeah, now we have our Phoenix Suns.
Let's
Put
go.
the logo right here.
Game 3 tonight.
I know, man. Game 3, round 1 against the Clippers. Dude, I was talking. The Clippers are just big.
They're so good.
They're big, dude.
They're big.
Kawhi, of course. What's his bucket? Nicholas
Batum.
Batum. Dude, Terrence Mann is a mass.
Yes.
He hasn't been playing awesome, but still a factor. But yeah, and then Barnes, like they're all just massive.
Well, even just Westbrook,
Oh,
point
dude,
guard.
that guy's a freak. The Phoenix Suns versus the Clippers and how, yeah, Kawhi's a freak.
Yeah.
I remember watching him in college and being like, oh, that guy's going to play and win a lot. And he's won 3 because he won the one with the Raptors when the year that
the
Clay
crazy-
and Kevin Durant got hurt.
Yep.
Which was like unbelievable.
Did he win with the Spurs?
He won with the Spurs. And I can't remember if it's once or twice.
I don't remember.
But yeah, we'll put it up right here. Yeah, basketball. Yeah, dude, I don't have a ton of other stuff, but I just so grateful you came on.
Yeah, thank you.
The way that we ended with Preston is like the way I want to end with everyone, which is so people, trying to find their lane, trying to figure out life, whether it's like we always say, personal or professional or, business, whatever. What are some words of wisdom for them in trying to find a lane? What are some characteristics or disciplines you think are necessary to be happy in the lane and find it, even if you're shifting lanes?
Yeah. I would say, going back to kind of how we started, for me, just find what those foundations are in your life and in your career and try to attack every day and do it in a way that will allow you to find kind of joy and happiness and in that sense of, belonging, in whatever you do. I think, for me, it's always been, and this doesn't go for everyone, but I would say for me, I notice that when I am up in the morning and I go to the gym and I have like a consistent routine to where it's I come home and breakfast and the kids and we get ready for school and then it's work. And when I consistently am following my kind of schedule and routine, I find that I'm more productive. I find that I can think more clearly. And I find that my days usually are a lot more organized and go better.
Yeah.
And so,
which leads to more production.
Yeah.
And more production leads to more happiness, essentially. I mean,
yeah. And so, obviously there's going to be, different trials and times that everything's not going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like the greatest or ideal situation for everyone. But
let's talk about that for a second. Because, I mean, dude, trials do come, to your point. We haven't really talked a ton about it. But, like, what are, things in in life when the hard times come? What are things that, I mean, I'm assuming it's a similar things, focus on our positive, focus on things that make us happy the most, but how do you deal with that? How do you deal with those?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it really, my personal kind of, I think, my feeling is that it really starts to make the things that are most important stand out. So, for example,
You're saying when a trial or when a
when-
tough time comes.
yeah,
Okay.
and it really allows you to focus on what is important. For me, there's been various things that we've gone through. My sister passed away, back in 2012, right before our oldest was born.
You and Lexi were already married?
Yeah, we were married. Yeah, she was about 8 months pregnant with Peyton.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 7-8 months pregnant. And that was a real hard time.
Sweet Jaquel, man.
Yeah, I mean, love her.
Yeah.
I mean, she's just one of the best girls ever. And as a family and dealing, and we continue to deal with that. I don't think you ever get over losing a loved one.
No question. Yeah.
But it's it really, at that point, it for us kind of, it made me look at my family and realize like how important that was for me, that it was the most important thing, and that everything I wanted to do moving forward from that time would allow me to or hopefully put me in a position to spend more time with my family. And
Interesting.
and that's kind of,
And the hardest thing ever of losing a sibling and someone that you love more than anything, your only sister.
Yeah.
You and your two brothers have the baby.
Yeah.
And that has led you to have better perspective on life and work harder or change things up or do things
yeah,
so as to make sure that when things come,
Yeah.
when trials, tough times come, you've already know.
Yeah.
It's because I'm spending time and doing the things that I love the most or
Yeah.
with the people I love the most because partly in part because of losing my Jaquel.
Yeah.
Or insert any issue or trial. And that's such a good tie into your why or your, when you are trying to find your path
Yeah.
of keeping that what makes you most happy and at the forefront, because when the tough times do come, it does help get through that, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean,
It's the only way you can,
it is. And
especially with something so hard like that. It's just
and I'm not gonna lie. I mean, yeah, there were days when it was hard,
no question.
and I can't even imagine being in my parents' spot
No
and
question.
having one of my kids. I mean, yeah, she was my sister, and I love her.
But now having your own kids,
And
like,
and
oh,
yeah, and understanding what that must have been like, and I'm sure there's still days that it's hard.
Totally.
And so I think just having that overall perspective, whether it's with a profession or a goal when it comes to what you want to accomplish in the short term or long term, I mean, for me, that's always kind of been my next step forward, push me along. Hey, this is what I have to keep doing. This is where I want to be. And
keep cranking in your lane.
yeah, you just keep going.
Love it, dude. Thanks for sharing that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
I think it goes great with what Preston shared of just staying grateful,
Yeah, for sure. Great.
That's why I love this. It's going to be cool to kind of amass these things that help us
Yeah.
continue moving forward.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the pod, dude.